Hello, this is Cheryl Lampard. Welcome to Knitter Matters. I'm just checking that it's streaming on the right page. Hopefully it is. Give me a moment. Oh. Yes, it is. And I hope that you can hear me. Let's see. Can you hear me okay? Yes, it is. And I hope that you can hear me. Well, I can hear myself here, so that's great. So, can you hear me? Wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome indeed to Knitter Matters. Thank you for joining me. I'm delighted that you're here. I'm Cheryl Lampard. I'm a fibre artist. I'm a knitting educator. I'm a craft yarn council certified instructor. I used to be a yarn store owner in Brighton, England, and one of the great things about having a yarn store is that I was able to teach people how to knit. I love doing it then and I love doing it now. And it's great to be back after a wonderful vacation in the UK. Let me just show you a couple of things. I came back with lots of fantastic sheepy treasures to add to my collection. Here are just two of them, these glass sheep that I thought was just so adorable. Let me move the camera over just a smidge. These glass sheep from a artisan glass blowing company in Cockington, Devon. I just thought they were so adorable. They had to come home with me. Anyway, and I actually watched those being made, which was super cool. So now this episode is the start. Let's put my sheets safely away. Is the start of a series of festive knits. And I know what you're thinking. Christmas already? Oh, it's still October. I know. But there are only 8 weeks until the holidays, and it's never too early to start making those little gifts and ornaments. What we're going to do for the next few weeks is do something different each week. Some will be my ideas and designs, some will be from favourite designers. But they'll all be projects that don't take forever to make, so you can make several if you wish to. And items that for the most part only need small amounts of yarn. So they're great stash busters. And yes, I know you have a yarn stash, same as I do. Anyway, let me switch to the worktop. So when I started on musing on what we could do for the run up to Christmas, I was tidying up some of my samples, and I do label them all for ease of demonstration and teaching. And I was tidying up my samples because they get out of order very quickly, and so I'm doing this as a sort of mindless but quite therapeutic thing. And I was, get that label out of the way, I was sort of flipping over the sides and the corners, and I'm thinking, oh, that kind of looks like an envelope there, oh, that's interesting. And then I started sort of folding it around. I had one of my business cards handy, and I was sort of folding it around. I thought, well, that would make a really nice little holder for a gift card. And, it being the festive season about to be upon us, I figured that is something that we could do. So, you could certainly let me just show you this. It fits pretty much any gift card, and it's all knitted, a little bit of blanket stitch around the edge for decoration, got its own little button, and you can hang that up on your tree or over your fireplace, whatever you wish to do with it. Now, I thought, well, I could just use a square, as in this. But I really wanted the knitting to be horizontal rather than diagonal. Well, that's not difficult to do. It's just a corner-to-corner technique. And if you've knitted dishcloths and washcloths, this corner-to-corner technique will be familiar to you. And if you haven't done it before, really it couldn't be any simpler. I will write up and post the directions up on the Knitter Matters Facebook page in the next couple of days, but let me take you through it. So for a gift card, really, the size of square that you need is going to be approximately 4.5, 5 inches. something like that. So this one, I'm not using this one, but this one actually measures just short of 5 inches, and in centimeters, that's going to be 12 to 13 centimeters, something like that. Or rather, if you want it, yeah, it would be, I'll do that again. Yeah, between 11.5 and 13 centimeters. Any bigger than that, and it's going to get a bit clunky, and any smaller, you probably won't get your gift card in there. So I played about casting how many stitches I needed to cast on. And I looked at my square and I sort of folded it up like an envelope, and I even got an envelope out to sort of see how that was folded. And I cast on varying amounts of stitches. This one was actually 5, and I actually cast on there so that my corner, my starting corner, was a bit blunt. And I quite like that, but it does, if you're not careful, you could leave that a bit short, and then you're going to get a gap before you can close it. So the next one I did was 3 stitches, and I'll show you that in a moment. When I did it with 3 stitches, you get more of a point, so that comes up a bit higher. So that sort of fastens a bit better, really, because you can't be pulling it, well, you can, but you don't want to be pulling it right down because you're going to get it quite bulky. So it's a sort of a bit of a finite art, but really it's not. It's very simple. So let me show you what we do. So I'm using here this is a DK for my UK friends. It's a kind of thickish DK, but it's a wool worsted yarn. I have three stitches. You can use any sort of cast on. I'm going to leave a longish tail. I would, if I'm doing this for my gift card holder, I'm going to leave a fairly longish tail because I'm going to use an end to sew up with. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to keep the tail a bit shorter, just so it's a bit easier. So I'm going to just do a long tail cast on here, and I'm going to do 3 stitches. Sorry, I'm going to move the camera a bit. I was a bit late. Well, I wasn't late setting up, but my computer, I had to reboot the computer at the last minute and then reboot the software app, so the software switching app. So I was a bit all over the place to start off with, but hopefully you can see that okay. So 3 stitches, long tail cast on 3 stitches. Okay, there we go. So all I'm going to do now is my next row is a knit row. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And that's really just so it sort of holds my cast on stitches. I want this fairly firm. I want the fabric to be fairly firm. So you can do any cast on that you like. I did the long tail because I know I get a nice sort of close cast on with that. And then that first knit row is just to sort of anchor that down a bit. Now the increase rows are all the same. So I'm going to slip 1 knitwise. I'm going to knit 1. And then I'm going to pick up that loop that lies in the row directly below. I'm going to pop it on my left hand needle, then I'm going to knit into the back of it. Then I'm going to knit to the end of the row, which in this case is just 1 stitch. I'm going to show you that again. It's really so simple, but it's just that case of getting into sort of an automatic rhythm. So slip knitwise, knit 1, picking up that loop or that thread that lies in the row below, popping it on my left hand needle, knitting it into the back, knit to the end of the row. I'm just going to do a few more rows so that you can see the pattern forming. Slip 1, knit 1, pick that up, pop it on my left hand needle, knit into the back of it, knit, 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 slip knitwise, knit, pop that onto my left hand needle, knit into the back. I do know that sometimes you pop up and say hello to me. Please don't think I'm ignoring you. It's just that it's quite challenging for me to pay attention to the screen, make sure that I'm showing you things in the right place and switch the camera about. So I tend to not look at the phone, but if you have any questions, please put them in the comments thread and I will answer them as soon as I'm able to. Slip one, knit one, pick up that loop, left hand needle, keep going. So you just keep repeating those rows. I'm going to do one more. I just need a few stitches on my needle because I need to show you what to do when we start decreasing in a minute. Slip, knit, pick up that loop, if you will, from the row below, knit. So you only increase on one side on each row. You don't do it at both ends, you just do it at the start. So this is a really nice project if you're what I call Netflix knitting. If you're concentrating on something but you want something to do with your hands, this is one of those that you could easily do, and you probably make quite a few squares in one evening. Slip, knit, pick up that loop, knit into the back of it. Knit, 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 knit. And it's surprising how quickly it grows. One more, and then I will just explain to you why I am doing this particular increase, because many of you who have done dishcloths before or corner to corner knitting, I say dishcloths because it's the perfect shape for them, and I know a lot of people do knit dishcloths, or it could be squares for a blanket. This is a really nice way to do squares, and if you do knit this corner to corner method, you may well find that your pattern or whatever you're working from suggests doing a yarn over as the increase. So I've got a few stitches on my needle there, but let me show you this one that I did before, where you can see really quite clearly. And let me just show you the difference. So my first, whatever it was, 15 rows or 10 rows I did here. Yeah, probably 10 rows, can't quite remember, maybe a few more. I did them exactly as I've just done them, with that lifting up that increase from lifting up that loop from the row below. Then as I've gone on, you can just see here I've done something else. In fact, I've lifted the loop up, but instead of knitting into the back of it, I just knitted into the front of it. So I knitted that loop as I would an ordinary stitch, putting my right hand needle from the sort of left side of the leg of it. And you can see I get these little holes, which is pretty nice. When I've gone up here, I've done several rows where you do a yarn over, and you can see the holes here are much bigger. So you can do whichever one you want to, whether you want to do lift that loop and knit into the back of it like I've done, lift that loop, or knit into the front of it where you get these quite pretty little holes, or instead of lifting the loop at all, you slip one, knit one, and then do a yarn over, and you will get fairly sizable holes there. Neither is wrong, but I didn't want holes because for the simple reason that I don't want my recipient to see what the gift card is. And perhaps if my gift card was, behind there, somebody clever might be able to pull the holes out and, oh, I've got a gift card from wherever. So to make my fabric a bit thicker, I decided not to do it without any holes. But you choose, you can do it whichever way you want to. So you repeat that increase row until the required size. When you've measured along the side of the work, so you would measure along the side like this, that's coming up to, that's just over 4 inches. So I've got probably, another ½ inch or so to go. But what I did find, when you do more than one of them, you'll find that you find the number of stitches that you're comfortable with to make your square. And I found that actually 41 stitches gave a decent size. Now we're going to start the decreases. Now, when you get to this point, imagine mine is obviously much bigger. Imagine I have my 41 stitches. You can, if you wish, just knit a row. Some people like to do that, I know, and I tried it. I think I did that with this sample, but on the sample I'm going to show you in a minute, I didn't do it. I did it just straight into the decreases. It's entirely up to you. So all we do for the decreasing is simplicity itself again. So, oops, slipping off my table there. So I'm going to slip one, and I'm going to knit two together, get to the end of my row. That's all I need to do. And again, I just decrease at the front end of every row. Slip one, knit two together, it takes a couple of rows to see the change in direction, but I promise you it will happen. Slip one, knit two, sorry, I'm off the top of the page there, I can see, whoops, knit one, two, knit two together, it's tempting to knit two together at the end of the row, but you have to kind of stop yourself from doing that, and after a while you just get into the rhythm of doing it. And ideally, okay, so you can see there my rather deformed little square, but you can see the shape is starting to change. And I would do this until I ended up with 3 stitches on my needle, and then I'd knit those 3 stitches together, or if you find that challenging, you can always run a needle, a sewing needle, yarn needle, leave a long tail, because you're going to be using that for your button loop or your sewing up. But if you find knitting 3 together difficult, you can just cut off a long tail, thread it on a yarn needle, and then run it through the 3 stitches. So I'm very soon going to be left with my 3 stitches on the needle, and I will attempt to knit all 3 together. There you go, I have to sort of wiggle that in a bit. There we go. There we go. And then I would just snip that off and pull that through that loop and fasten that off. Okay, so now we have our square. Now you're going to look at me and say, that's not a square, it looks like a sock or a slipper. All I've done here is sewn up one side so that you don't have to watch me laboriously sew up both sides. I promise you this was a square. So here is my card. I'm going to use this one just to sort of for my positioning. Now you can see it was a square. So I've already sewn that one. So all I'm going to do here is kind of make sure I'm not, I don't want to go at an angle. I want to make sure one of my lines of knitting is sort of along the hem. Obviously it's a squishy fabric. It's not necessarily going to stay put, but you want to get it right. So that's my line running along the bottom. Now I'm going to fold that over that side. Now remember, we don't have to meet in the middle. The idea is not to meet in the middle, because you're going to end up with quite a small little holder then. But you have this little gap here, and well, I'm just securing this with bamboo pins. I like these for knitted things. Okay, now I'm going to just sew that up. I don't like knots in knitting, but for just the purposes of this, I'm going to just put a knot in, and then I'll worry about that later. But for the purposes of demonstration, I want to speed things up. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom, and then I'm going to just, hopefully you can see this okay. I'm going to go from sort of side to side. Okay, now I can take one out. It's only a short little seam, but I'm going to kind of catch those little bumps, the garter stitch bumps there. And close that up. Okay. There we go. So I have to sew it this way. It's awkward otherwise, but I hope you can see what I'm doing okay. Nearly there. You can see why I didn't want to take the time to sew up two seams and just have you watching both. And again, if you know, you don't have to be the best stitcher in the world. It's all going to blend in. Just get to make sure I'm sort of going evenly there. Yeah, there we go. And I don't have to go right to the top. Remember, I need that gap there. So I'm just gonna finish off my little seam there. Going there. There we go. Again, I'm just gonna quickly fasten that off and I'll weave it in later. Doing that a bit quickly there, but you get the idea. Okay. There we go. So that's my little holder there. Now I want to do something here. And here, this is where the fun starts, really. I think you can choose your buttons. So I've got a really nice horn button there. On this one, I found this sort of funky, multicolored acrylic button that looks quite good. I wouldn't choose a tiny button. I'd actually choose quite a large button. You want it to show. And the smaller your button, the more fiddly it is to keep fastened. This is a lovely horn button. This would be really nice here. That would be really nice. Or something like this is rather fun if you're giving a gift to your partner or your spouse, whatever. This, or a particularly good friend, that would be a fun button too. So to do that button loop, remember I left that long tail. I have left an excessively long tail there, but that's okay. So now I'm going to get my crochet hook, and I'm just going to crochet a chain. What I would do is sew my button on first. I'm not going to do that now in the interest of time, but I'd sew my button on first, and then as I'm making my chain I can loop it round. I wouldn't make the chain too long. It's going to stretch a little bit, so you can have it shorter than you think you might. So literally I'm doing a crochet chain. If you don't have a crochet hook, you can actually do a sort of stitcher chain, or you can even just knit one. But the crochet chain is sort of the easiest and the fastest. So once I've decided how long I want that to be, let's see, probably a bit small. Let's do another one or two. Okay. That's probably about right. Once my button is on, yeah, I can get that through there. So I'm just going to fasten that off there. Crochet is not my best skill, so forgive me that it's not that great. I am going to cut that off now because I'm going to pull that through. Okay, and then I'll weave that in afterwards again. So I now have my little button loop there. Okay, so one of the other things I did, you can of course just leave it like this. It's perfectly nice as it is. You'll want to do another crochet chain here as your hanger, or if you don't want to do that, you could just use those little, you know, wire hangers that you put on the tree, but I think it's quite nice with a crochet chain hanger. Now I finished mine off with blanket stitch. You could crochet around it, you could leave it exactly as it is. I think it's terribly nice as it is, but let me just show you. I just did that white blanket stitch because I kind of thought it was just something charming about it. So it's a long time since I've done blanket stitch, so I'm going to remember how to do it. So if I remember correctly from my school days, and I have done it since then, I came in from the back with my contrast yarn. I'll do that again in case you didn't see it. So I've come in from the back with my contrast yarn. Again, not worrying about knots or anything because I'll sort of stitch that in as I go. Put my needle in a little space and pull it through. This is a wonderful little project for, I think, if you've got children or grandchildren. This is a really nice project to either get them interested in knitting, or if they want to work with you. I think it's a lovely project that you can do together. It's small enough to be, for them not to get bored. It's small enough to have a finished project at the end of it. And there's quite a few different elements in it. If you're learning to knit or teaching somebody to knit, just not just with the knitting, but you've got increases, you've got decreases, then you've got a bit of stitching and a bit of finishing, and you can help them with the tricky bits, or maybe they'll help you with the tricky bits, whichever way. So you could go around like this as I did to finish it off. I would recommend doing, I did it the wrong way round, well, not the wrong way round, but on this sample I worked my blanket stitch because I got all excited about doing that, and then I did my loops. That was probably a mistake. I should have done the loops first and then the blanket stitch all the way around the edge. So as I say, you can leave it as it is, you can finish it with crochet, you can finish it with something really interesting if you want, or a sort of fluffy yarn, stitch that round, or whatever you want to do. But there's something rather charming, I think, about just this very simple blanket stitch. And again, it's one of those things you might remember doing it years ago at school, or little craft projects, but it's rather nice to do it again. So obviously I'd go all the way around, and there is your gift card holder. Okay, let me go back to full screen. So of course, it doesn't have to be just a gift card holder. You could put in a personal message, you could put a small card or a tag with a message saying, look under the tree, or something like that, whatever you wish. But I think something like this on the tree is really rather lovely, and you could do several of them. You could put an initial, embroider somebody's initial on the back. It's just fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. Next episode, we'll be doing some mini bobble hats, mini pom-pom hats for tree decorations, or even you could use them when you're tying up a parcel as sort of gift tags. So do join me again next week for Knit and Matters. This episode was season 4, episode 11. Feel free to email me as always, or message me if you have any questions on this or any other episode. And this episode and all other episodes of Knit and Matters are uploaded on our Facebook page afterwards, and our YouTube channel of the same name, Knit and Matters. And if you liked it, do let us know. All our videos, all replays of lives are on YouTube, and it's actually the easiest way to watch them. There's a whole playlist there. I've even got a typed up playlist of what every episode contains. So if you want one of those, just email me, let me know, or private message me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep well, keep calm, and keep knitting. Bye for now.